right. Well, good morning. I am Brendan Bartic. Glad that you could all join us for this class where basically we're going to be talking about how to create a marketing system that's easy to use, that you can build on, that will net you $1 million if that's your end goal, or even more than that as you start to move forward. So there's going to be a lot of information we're going to cover. This class is normally almost 2 hours or 3 hours long. We've condensed it into an hour and a half because of the Zoom format. So if you'd like more information even after this, you can visit our Facebook page. We offer a number of different courses. Our YouTube channel is going to give you all this great stuff. So without further ado, we will jump in. So again, I'm Brendan Bartic with Brendan Bartic Real Estate Coaching, where our mission is to train the most elite real estate agents and coaches on earth. I always start out with just kind of giving a little bit of background. So I started out as a real estate assistant to a top producer almost 20 years ago. From that point, became an agent on her team. From that point, a few years later, became an agent on my own. Then became a team leader and started running my own team. And then from that point, ended up owning a real estate brokerage and a real estate training company. So I've been through every kind of piece of this. I used to be the person making the flyers and the brochures. I used to be the person writing the property descriptions, doing the postcards, everything, anything you could imagine. I've been there, so I've probably seen it. So I should hopefully be a good resource for everybody today. And as we go through this, feel free in the chat box, ask any questions. The more you ask, the more you're going to learn, the more that I can specifically, speak to things that might be affecting you and your business and that's why I'm here. So I'm going to share my screen here and we're going to jump in and get this started. All right. So starting out with Market Your Way to Millions, the first thing we want to talk about is, how do you stand out? When we talk about marketing, it all comes down to separating yourself from your competition, okay? And when we look at that, there's a number of different ways that we can accomplish that, right? So we've got to win mind share. When you look at the National Association of Realtors statistics, you can kind of see those stats. 76% of all sellers contacted only one agent, 16% contacted two. And then when you look at the interview rates, 22% interviewed two, and only 59% of all of them only interviewed one agent. So when you look at that and you say, hey, 59% only interviewed one agent for buyers, and 76% of all sellers only interviewed one agent. If you were thinking about those numbers, why would you think that there would be a less percentage for buyers? Why is it that 59% of all buyers only interviewed one agent and 76% of sellers only contacted one agent? Well, it's quite simple, right? With a seller, you can direct mail market to that seller's home day after day after day. You can become the neighborhood expert. You can become the person that wins that mind share. Whereas if you're working with a buyer, normally what does the buyer care about? They care about finding a house. So they go online. Their first step is to go online to try to find a house. You're not getting marketed to on a regular basis. And if you are marketing to buyers, you can see why you probably shouldn't be on a high level, because you can see the difference of the loyalty factor there. So you can build loyalty with sellers. It's almost a 20% difference of setting that loyalty with a buyer. So think about that when you're spending your marketing dollars, and we want to look at that. Would you want to spend money on marketing to sellers or buyers? My opinion, it would always be sellers and only sellers, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. So when we're looking at mindshare, that's what we're trying to do, is when that seller picks up the phone to call an agent, that agent is you. Period. End of story. It doesn't even cross their mind to think about anybody else. It's you. So the plan in the system that I'm going to teach you today is how to make you that person, how to make sure that your name's the only person they think about, they love you, they want to work with you. And then when you come over, because there's already a sense of trust there, they're going to be a lot easier to work with. They're going to take your opinion. They're going to trust what you're doing. They're going to pay you more because they value that relationship, instead of some online lead looking for a flat fee realtor that's going to, try to get you for 3.5%. That's the whole point of this, is to build and strengthen relationships. All right, so that's what we're looking at for mindshare. So constant bombardment of advertising leads to oversaturation to win that mindshare. I don't know why my clicker's not working today, but okay. So turn the general public into raving fans, right? Strategically leverage your database. So when we talk about a raving fan, right, we're trying to basically take a group of people and take them from what we call a target group to being a core advocate. So we're taking the phone book and making it people that love you. And there's a very systematic approach on how we do that. And when we look at that, a lot of the questions that I get, and me and Anna were even talking about this earlier this morning, one of the questions I always get is, well, Brendan, where should I start with my target group? Where do I even begin? I live in this neighborhood. I don't even own my own home yet. Heck, I don't even own a car, right? Like, what should I be doing and where should I be starting? So if I said that and I looked at and I said, hey, look, this is all going to come down to two things. Number one, what is your budget? And number two, where do you really want to be the expert or the market share winner in the years to come? And then from there, we can establish that target group to build raving fans in that core advocacy. So when we talk about target group, one of the things we're going to be looking at is the general public, those people who haven't met you yet. Now, a target group would be so you would take the general public, and then when we talk about a target group, you would say, okay, I don't want the general public, I want this neighborhood, I want this building, I want this church, I want this political group, I want this alumni organization that I work with, I want this charity. So it doesn't have to be, a lot of people just get locked into this group has to be a neighborhood. It doesn't have to be that at all. It's just a target group that you're going to market to consistently on a regular basis until they turn into a core advocate, okay? So with that, you have to first establish it and say, okay, well, this would play out to where your strengths are. So if you live in a neighborhood that has 6 to 10% turnover, then you could start there, right? You could start with a neighborhood. Now, some questions I get is, how do you determine turnover rate in a neighborhood? Well, it's pretty easy. This is the easiest way. And again, I hate math, right? Go back to your neighborhood and run how many closed sales happened in the last 12 months. So let's say that there was 10 closed sales in that neighborhood, right? Let's just say there was 10 closed sales in that neighborhood, and there was 10, let's even make it even easier. Let's say there's 100 homes in that neighborhood, and there was one home that sold in the last 12 months. That neighborhood would have a 1% turnover rate. There was 100 homes in the neighborhood, and one home sold in the last 12 months. It's a 1% turnover rate, okay? If it would have had 5%. If it had 10%. So then just multiply that up by 500, 10,000 homes, whatever it is that you're looking at, right? You want to only be marketing to a target group that has 6 to 10% or higher turnover rate. If your neighborhood you live in, people are there till they die and they're never moving, it's going to be a waste of money that you're marketing to, because it's just going to go right down the toilet, right? Even though you love your neighborhood. Cool? Now, there's ways online that help you with this. If you're not using Remind is great through MLS. That's a great tool. It'll take it even a step further. There's Hot Zip. There's all kind of different things that you can utilize to do these, but it's really the MLS. Go into the neighborhood you want, see how many homes sold in the last 12 months. Pretty simple. Divided by how many homes are in the neighborhood. Cool. So the next thing is allied resources. Okay, so when you're talking about a target group, you could also be going to a very allied resource. So this could be your lenders, your title companies, people, the salon you get your haircut at, not me obviously, but the salon you get your haircut at. right? You go there and you consistently market to them because you give them business, and in return, you want to have that reciprocated to yourself. So you really want to work with allied resources. Cool. And then as we start to bring them in from our target, they're going to start to become part of our inner circle, right? So once we get them in there, we're going to market to them consistently and make sure that they love us so that we win that mind share. And I'm going to talk to you a simple way of doing that. All right. So when we're looking at this, and we're looking at what we call your haven't met database, people you haven't met yet, people that you want to meet, that you want to get into your inner circle, but you just haven't done it yet, right? So if you see on the slide here, the target group you haven't met, or target group you haven't met who don't know you, okay? So you're looking at that. They haven't met you, they don't know you, and you're going to use focused prospecting to find them. So when I define focused prospecting, right? Prospecting meaning that I'm going to dial in on a very specific area, and I'm going to do it on a consistent basis. So let's say that you didn't want to spend $1, right? You go, I don't have $1 to spend on marketing. I've been in the business all of 2 days. I don't have $1 to spend on marketing. Well, then what you would do is you have effort and time. So with your effort and time, you would get that focused prospecting group. So you would either dial in on a neighborhood, use the MLS, pull the number or pull the addresses out of MLS that you want to contact in that neighborhood, use True People Search or 411.com to do a reverse address search of that neighborhood. Now, if you want to use a paid service like Kohl's Directory, that makes it a lot easier, or Mojo or Vulcan 7 or whatever you're utilizing for a neighborhood search function, right? If you're using that, you're going to pull that neighborhood's data, and instead of mailing them, you're going to call them. And you're going to call and you're going to say, hey, my office just sold the property at 123 Elm Street. We actually are working with several buyers that missed out on that opportunity. I was calling today to see if you or anyone you know might be interested in selling. Once you start doing that, then you're going to start talking to people. Now you're going to make this call over and over to the same neighborhood, right? So they keep hearing you all the time until you start having enough sales where you can now put money into marketing. So the golden rule, and for me, and a pro tip for you guys is, every check you make, 10% of that check should go directly to mail, directly to your mail marketing system, right? So if you make a $10,000 check, $1,000 goes directly to that. And that's how you grow and not have to sit here and ride this roller coaster of when am I going to get my next lead? You got to invest back into your system, okay? So your marketing attracts them to find you. So we also have to set better mousetraps, right? So when we look at marketing, we're going to talk about techniques here on what people respond to, what they don't respond to, what just makes them want to vibe with you, right? All you're trying to do is build your real estate tribe. People that go, look, that's, that Dawn, she's my girl. I ride or die with Dawn. That's who I'm going to work with, period, end of story. I don't care who calls me. That's who I'm going to work with, right? And then with the farming piece, farming just means that we're going to plant seeds every year to watch our harvest and our crop grow, or to watch our harvest grow, to watch our crop grow so we can harvest it, right? That's all it means. I'm going to plant seeds year after year after year. In this case, we're going to be planting seeds month after month after month after month. So that's your haven't met database, right? So it's when you look at who belongs in it, all we're ever trying to do anytime we're looking at this is we're trying to build a very simple group, and we're saying, here's the general public out here. All I'm trying to do is get the general public from out here into here, and then once they're in here, I'm going to love them, love them, love them, love them, love them, and then they're going to spit out money. That's it. That's the whole entire beautiful artistic system of what we're doing, right? But people overthink it. They overthink it, okay? So when we're looking at that, then we need to talk about who belongs in this center Met database, right? The Tootsie Roll center of the Tootsie Pop. Who belongs in that center of the Met database? Here's how I define it, right? So if I'm spending money on my target group, right? Let's say that I'm paying, postcard mailers, market reports. We're going to talk about all this stuff. Then for my Mets, I define it by somebody that I would spend $33 a year to marketing to. $33 a year marketing to. Preferably that I've met in person, right? Doesn't 100 have to be that. If you have a really good person and you've had like a video chat with them and these, COVID right now with Zoom and you feel, hey, I think they're good enough, then go ahead and put them in. Default back to the first question. Do you think they're worth $33 to market to, right? If you don't, then use that qualifier. And then think repeat and referral. Is this person going to refer me business? Am I going to do repeat business with them in the future? And that's how I look at that bucket. Now, the reason for the $33 amount is because of our 33 touch system that we're going to provide. And we're just estimating easy numbers, $1 a piece, which it's not going to be. It's going to be cheaper than that. But I'll just give it an easy, it's an easy way to think about it. 33 touches, $33. That's how I'm going to make them love me and exactly looking at it. So we're going to work out some numbers here in a second so you can see how easy this math is to truly net $1 million in real estate. But that's how I look at the MET. Now, when I talk to people and that I coach and I work with about their METs, if I asked you right now, and I'd love you to do this on a piece of paper or put it in the chat box, how many METs do you have right now? How many people in your database would you currently right now spend $33 a year marketing to that you've met them in person or you know that they know who you are and that you think would do repeat and referral business with you or at least refer somebody to you? Cool. So now take that number and I'm going to ask you a fourth qualifying question. If I were to call that list, if you gave me that list and I asked them, hey, without even knowing who they are, hey, I was just calling real quick, who's your preferred real estate agent of choice? What would they say? If your name doesn't spit out immediately, they're not a true MET. You want them to be a MET, but in their eyes, they're not a true MET yet. All right? So that's a big thing. We've got to think about it like that. And then we know, and once we work out the numbers here, and I'll show you how many you need to have, and that's where this gets really exciting on how easy it is. So when we talk about business, every business has a successful formula. Kentucky Fried Chicken has a successful formula for making chicken and selling it, right? They have a secret recipe for their chicken that people liked, that they've built their entire company around, and they have a formula for that. Okay, right? Uber has a formula, right, that they utilize, and they looked at it and they created a very new formula that changed the entire game. Well, real estate has a formula too, and it's very, very simple. You're looking at it right now, okay? To net $1 million in residential real estate, and when I first, heard about this years ago, I was like, yeah, whatever, and then I did it. And then I coached people to do it and they did it. That's when I became a believer. So I understand when you look at these things, believe me, I am very, very, speculative on what works and what doesn't work. And I'll be the first to be like, yeah, right. It works. So I don't know what else to tell you. Believe it, live it, love it. It works. So if you need to make $1,000 in net commission, simple numbers, you got to do $2.4 million in GCI, gross commission income. And when you work out all those numbers, you can see there that you have cost of sales, you've got all of these different things. That's on an average sales price of $250,000. Okay? So with all your costs, so you look at it, you have $1.4 million in expenses. And I teach in another class where we break this down, verbatim to the letter so you know exactly how to do all of these things. But very simple. $1 million, it takes 2.4 to make $1 million. Pretty simple. So now we got to figure out, wow, that's a lot of GCI. How do I get that much GCI? And how do I do it and build up consistently over time? Okay. Well, it breaks out very simple to this. So you've got a MET and a haven't met database, okay? In your MET database, you have a couple of options here. Number one, at an average sales price, remember, of $250,000. So if you're here in the front range and you're 500,000, if you're in California and your average sales price is $1 million, you can work the math out. It's pretty simple. For here, it's half, right? But we'll talk about that here in a second. So I can either have 1,920 people in my MET database and 0 in my haven't met. So remember, haven't met over here, MET's in the middle. Option number 2, I can have 0 in my database, in my MET database, and I can market to 16,000 people in my haven't met. Or option number 3, which is the best option, is to do a combination of both. 960 in my database, in my MET database, and 8,000 in my target group of haven't mets. That would give me 320 closed sales a year at an average sales price of $250,000, would gross me $2.4 million in gross GCI. Okay, so I always go through this math. People are like, I don't care about the math, Brennan, whatever. Like, you need to understand the math because that's where it gets exciting and you can look at the numbers. Now, here's how those numbers work out. With your MET database, you're going to have an 8x8 33 touch system. And I'm going to show you my custom one here in a second. That works out to a 12:2 ratio. And everybody goes, why 12:2? Why not 1 out of 6? Because every 12 people in your database, they should produce 1 deal and 1 referral, right? One investment property, resale, whatever it is, and 1 referral. Then in your haven't mets, for every 50 you have in your haven't met bucket, you're going to get 1 deal. So that's why it's 50-1 for your haven't mets and 12-2 for your mets. Okay. Now, you see there on the haven't mets, it's a 12 direct. All 12 direct means is I'm going to touch them 12 times a year, once a month. On the mets, I'm going to touch them 33 times a year. That's it. Very, very simple. Cool? So that's the ratios. All right. So when we look at that, right, those ratios were based on an average sales price of $250,000. So if your average sales price was $500,000, it breaks out very simply. Option number 1, you can have 960 in your MET database and no haven't mets. Option number 2, 8,000 in your haven't mets and no mets. Or option 3, again, the best one, 4,000 in your haven't mets and 480 in your mets, which will produce 160 sales per year, which at an average sales price of $500,000 nets you $1 million. Congrats, you are now a real estate millionaire. You get a little chain, you get a watch, you get the pink Cadillac, whatever it is, that's what you have to have in your mind. And it's easier than you think. Okay? So now, just taught you how to net $1 million. We could probably stop the class here, but I'm going to continue on and show you a little bit more. That was the whole class. No, just kidding. Right? So now, when we look at that, let's talk about the investment that that's going to take. Right? Because I love making sure people understand the math. All right? So when we look at it, marketing only to your haven't mets, if you did 8,000 people at $1 a piece, it would cost you $96,000 a year. That is a lot, right? But not when you're making $1 million. It's not that much, right? The second one is you could market just to your mets. Hey, I'm only going to market, and you see agents do this all the time. I'm just going to market to people I know. I'm not spending $1 on the outside world. I'm just going to market and love, love, love my mets. Cool. If you did that, you would need 960 of them on a 33 touch program with an average cost of $1 per touch. It would only cost you $31,000. So look at that, 3 times as much to get the same result from haven't mets as it does with mets. Or you do the combination of them both, and I'll talk about why the combination is so important, where you've got 420 mets and 4,000 haven't mets, and it's going to cost you $61,000 a year. I don't know about you, but I would pay 61 grand to make $940,000. If you don't, you're crazy. That's just crazy, right? All day, twice on Sunday, I spend $61,000 to make $940,000 net And we're not talking make, we're talking net, right? You're going to make $2.4 million in GCI, but because of cost, everything else, you're going to net that amount. All right. So think about these numbers and then realize, okay, maybe my goal is only to net $100,000, right? Well, we're going to talk about exactly the formula to do that here in just a second. So what we want to look at now is I want to help you kind of structure, right? Let me see if I can get this in the screen. Is it better there? There we go. I want to help you structure on a very simple one page how to net $100,000 if that's your first goal, right? And I think on our left we put net $1 million, but that's okay. We were off by 1 comma there, I think, unless this was the net $1 million sheet. Either way, it's net something, it's net a lot of money, but we're going to talk about it here, right? So when we look at those numbers, it's just simple math of what we're going to break down. So we offer this very easy one-page sheet on our Facebook page. People hear me talk about it all the time. It's the key thing that changed my entire business. I think we're going to post it here on the group chat or whatever it is. But if you don't have it, go to our private Facebook page, Brendan Bartic Real Estate Coaching. We'll accept you as a member if you're not too weird. And then once you're in there, we have all kind of files, everything that you could use to help build your real estate business. And we're always adding new things almost every single day. So if I'm looking at it and I'm looking at my haven't met database, right? And I've got my goals and I've got my commitments and I've got all of these things. All I'm trying to do is figure out how many am I going to need to net $100,000, right? So up here, you can see you've got, we're looking at it right now, is if my goal is to net $1 million, right? If my goal is to net $1 million, then I'm going to have 4,000 in here, right? If that was my goal. So I need to have 4,000 in my haven't mets, and I need to have 500 in my mets. That's to net $1 million. So if we use that same math, and I asked you earlier, how many true mets do you have right now? And you can see the slide or whatever it is. If that number happens to be 47, then you know exactly on a monthly basis. So you laminate this sheet and you know you need to add to this every single week to get you on your course to being a net millionaire in real estate. Now, here's the big piece of this with the haven't mets. The reason why this combination is the best is because what a lot of agents will do is they'll only market to their Met database. So they'll go, hey, look, I'm crushing my Met database. Everybody that I know in my world loves me. Well, the problem is with your Met database, you're going to have almost 20 to 30% attrition per year, meaning that people in this Met database that you thought were a Met are going to leave. They're going to get divorced. They're going to become a real estate agent. They're going to move out of state. They're going to move out of country. They're going to die. So you're going to be in a battle where you're trying to not only fill the bucket to maintain it, but then you've got to be trying to fill it even more to grow it. And in order to do that, you have to have haven't mets to fill it. You can't have one without the other. I always give the analogy of you can't have a successful restaurant where you feed only your family and friends. If you want to have an amazing restaurant, you have to have the public come into your restaurant and then become regulars. So it's the same thing with our business. We want to have people come into our restaurant, become regulars, and come back time after time after time, and tell other people about how great our restaurant is. That's your haven't met bucket, right? So if you have, you're adding however many people to it, whatever it is, we're going to talk about some ideas here. You have to have the balance of the both, because once you have people in this bucket, right, this bucket is then going to feed this bucket. And as you put money into this, then this bucket, people are going to fall out. They're going to leave, and you got to keep refilling and recycling. You have to keep refilling and recycling. Okay. So down here, you've got your 5 commitments. Right? So this would be your volume goal, your closing goal, your signed goal, your appointments held, and your contacts on the bottom row for every month. This is for the month. So figure out what you want for the year, divide it by 12. And then on the top, once you laminate this sheet, after every week, you're going to fill in where you're at. In this one page, we'll literally net you $1 million if you focus on it. That's all it's there to do. You just have to focus on it. So when we look at the net a million, or excuse me, net 100,000, to net 100,000, you need 48 and 400 at an average sales price of 500,000, right? So you need 48. Think about how crazy that sounds. I want to make $100,000, right, in real estate. All I've got to do is have 48 true Mets that I market to and 400 haven't Mets. 48 and 400.
That feels so doable, right? Like, I think you talk about the $1 million number and it can feel overwhelming, right? But when you chunk it out into $100,000 increments, 48 is pretty easy.
Right. I mean, well said, Anna. And it's just like, and then you go, okay, so 100 and 800 for 200,000 and so on and so forth. And I've been coaching people for a long time. I have an amazing client that I work with right now that I coach personally, and she's a top agent in Aurora. And when I started coaching with her, she had 250 Mets and 0 haven't Mets. 250 Mets. I looked at her P&L. She nets $550,000 a year. Take 6 other clients, look at their businesses, same thing. I have another client that I work with who's an amazing agent. She has 8,000 in her haven't Mets and 0 in her Mets. Not 0, but like very few. She was really, really strong at marketing, but not talking about building those relationships with those core people, right? And I'm going to talk about the 33 touches here in a second. Again, with that amount, she was doing 8,000. She was netting about 700 grand without having any Mets, with 8,000 in her haven't Mets. So it is tried, tested, true. This isn't like, you know, whatever. I have 30 Mets and I'm not making $1. Well, if you have 30 Mets and you're not making $1, right? I'll explain here in a moment why, right? Because your Mets aren't on a true 33 touch, and they're not a true Met yet. They're a Met in waiting. You're dating that Met, but you guys aren't true Mets, right? So we'll talk about that here in a second. So remember, $100,000, 48 and 400, boom, you're on your way. Cool? All right. The question that I get a lot of is, Brendan, why would I do direct mail, spend this money? So I always like to take a pause here and just explain to people the difference of direct mail marketing versus internet leads, right? So does buying internet leads work? And here's some simple numbers, right? If you look at an internet lead cost, Zillow, Realtor.com, pay-per-click advertising, the average cost per lead is going to cost you somewhere around $200. Now, I know some people, you can produce a Facebook lead for $10 and you're like, great, well, good luck. Let me know how many thousands of Facebook leads you need to produce one deal from a $10 Facebook lead, okay? The average will still probably come out on any gauge about $200 per internet lead, okay? Now, we know average conversion rate, and this is if you're pretty darn good, is going to be about 6%. Some people are at 3, the experts in the industry are at 10, so 6% is a pretty safe bet. So for every 100 internet leads you'd receive, you would get 6 closed sales, right? So 100 at 6% conversion, 6 closed sales. That means you'd need 2,666 leads at a 6% conversion ratio to close 160 closed deals at an average sales price of $500,000 to net $1 million. 160, right? So 160 deals. So $200 times 2,666 leads cost $533,000. $533,000, where you just saw the other plan was 68,000, or excuse me, 61,000. So when you see all these people and they're like, I'm crushing it, you're at the award ceremony and you ask them like, hey, what's your biggest source for leads? And they're like, Zillow leads. Just know they're not making squat. They look cool. They're up there getting the award. They're not making jack, right? That's the simple numbers. Now, ask me again. Well, Brendan, do you buy internet leads? The answer is yes, depending upon the return on investment, but nowhere near the amount of what I do as far as 33 touch system, because I don't want to. Plus, let's look at the facts. Internet leads are sketchy. These people are cracked out. You don't know what you're walking into. They don't care about you. There's no relationship. It's a nightmare, and you're chasing them along with 10 other agents who are buying the same lead. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. But you see agents do it every day, especially when they're newer in the business, because they heard from Joey, who heard from Tommy, who heard from Sally, that if I buy some internet leads, I can quickly get deals. Cool. Yes, you will get a deal and you'll spend a bunch of money to get deals, and maybe you'll still turn a profit, but it won't be a very good profit. And that money, as soon as you buy that internet lead, unless you put them on a 33 touch system, they're never going to do business with you again. That's the thing that drives me nuts. If you're going to spend money on internet leads, do both. Use that as your target group and then turn them into a long-term, lifelong fan. Most people I know that do internet leads, they get the internet lead, close the deal, keep it moving. Okay? So be very, very careful with how you're doing this, right? Know the numbers on your business. Don't listen to Joey in the office, because Joey don't know squat. All right. So marketing to your Mets, the most cost-effective form of lead generation, right? We talked about it. 10% of your gross income should go to your marketing system. When we're looking at this, we're just getting leads in. We're going to turn them into prospects and then eventually turn them into customers. Now, what we're looking at here is a diagram of just showing basically a very simple system. You're going to market to your 12 direct target group. They are then going to go into your Met bucket. And for 8 weeks in a row, you're going to build the relationship. That's why it's called an 8x8. 8 weeks in a row, you're going to build a relationship with them. Now, they did all these studies. The 8 number didn't just come out of thin air. The 8 number came out of all of these studies that said that it took 8 weeks of you being in somebody's face to win their mind share. And then from there, you needed to stay consistently in front of them 33 times a year. Now, I know agents that do 67 touches, 100 touches a year. I know agents that do 12 touches and everywhere in between. So you could definitely oversaturate this at a much higher level, but 33 is what I would say is the sweet spot. If you just did that, you'll have a very successful career. It's just no two ways about it. So they're in your Habit Mets. You're doing your once a month mailer to them, or your once a month direct mail or a targeted mailer. Then they raise their hand and they go, hey, you know what? I was just curious. I just want a CMA in my house. Look, I'm not ready to sell. I'm not moving for 2 years. Look, I was just curious. I get your postcards all the time. It looks like you do a lot of business here, or your market reports or your pop buys or whatever it is. So I'm just curious in a CMA. Okay, great. You have that conversation. You put them in your 8x8. So now a handwritten note card goes out, and then 7 more touches, which I'll show you here in a second, for the first 8 weeks. Then after that, they go into what I call my client for life 33 touch system. Then they receive 33 touches every 12 months until they die or tell me to go screw off, whichever happens first, right? So then they're in that. Then I get the referral business, the repeat business, and then you see at the bottom there, the new business is coming from the direct mail or the 1x12. So that's the machine. It's a very simple machine, but people get really overwhelmed by it. And I'm going to give you some pro tips on how to set this machine up and make it work really easily. But what I like to always do, and I hope you always remember this one image in your mind for the rest of your life, right? Your results are directly connected to how well you process your leads in your referral. So now we're talking about your CRM, right? Your database. Are you using, a pan of gold, right? You're sitting there in the river on your knees, getting soaking wet, scurrying through all this little pan of dirt to try to find little gold flakes? Or are you using a massive mining gold machine, right? That's processing tons and tons and tons of dirt. So gold nuggets are just plowing out one after another, right? Just spitting out gold. That's all real estate is. The people that win and where you go, wow, these teams seem to be doing all this, or that one agent does a lot. When you look at it, their machine is just bigger and more efficient than your machine on where your machine is at right now. They're not smarter than you. They're not better funded than you. They're better funded now because they're making a lot of money, but they started probably at the very same spot that you're sitting at right now going, I got an Excel spreadsheet with about 10 names on it. That's where I started. I started with 3 names on it. I didn't even have a barber. So I was already behind the power curve, right? So I looked at it and I said, okay, once I learned this method, I go, I just have to build. I just have to build. So think about that. Are you using a pan of gold or a machine to mine gold? That's what we got to look at. All right, so let's talk about those 12 direct pieces, right? How you work with your haven't mets. 12 pieces of direct mail sent annually once a month. Here's the pro tip that I like to look at, right? I'm going to give you a lot of different marketing ideas today, but it's pretty simple as I break it all down. You want to look at the marketing in 2 aspects. You want to do something quirky and fun, and then something informational. 1 month quirky and fun, 1 month informational. Okay. Now, when I say quirky and fun, this could be St. Patrick's Day scratch gift card that says, hey, I'm lucky to have you as a client. I hope you get lucky today. St. Patrick's Day scratch card, $1 piece of mail. The piece might cost you $1.50. That's why I said the dollar is an average. And I'm going to talk about, you'll have cheaper pieces that are 65 cents, right? But that's a cute little mailer that always does that, right? Then the next month, the mailer is going to be a market report, mortgage rates, an update on their neighborhood, what's going on in their neighborhood. Whatever it might be, it's going to be something informational. So quirky, then informational. We're going to give you a whole bunch of ideas here on all of that stuff. The reason behind that is because you want them to know you're human. I know a lot of agents that just shove market reports down people's throats. It's like 1,000 times a month, market report. I sold this, I sold that. You see it on Facebook, right? I'm like, no one cares, right? Cool, you sold a house. We get it. That wouldn't bother people if it also mixed in the human nature of, hey, here's me doing charity. Hey, here's me doing this. Hey, here's a picture of my kid. Hey, here's a picture of whatever it is, right? It's got to be mixed in because people want to work with people they believe in. Let me be very clear on that. People want to work with people they believe in, right? So how do you get people to believe in you? How do you get people to believe in your brand and trust you? Okay, we're going to talk about that. And it has to be customized to you. If you're an amazing chef and you're going to be sending out recipe cards because that's your passion and your love, people are going to identify with that. And they're going to be like, oh yeah, I love that guy or gal. She's a great cook and a realtor. How fun. I love cooking and I like houses. Cool, I'm going to vibe with that. But if I'm not a chef, I'm not going to send recipe cards. It's not who I am. Now, I always tell this story and people laugh, but I did send recipe cards because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And I still get calls to this day from clients about my banana bread recipe card, that it was the best banana bread they've ever made or had in their entire life. So what do I know? Even if you're not a chef, send banana bread cards. They work. That's another pro tip. Banana bread recipe cards, people eat that up. I don't know what it is, right? But it works. So customize it to who you are as a human. And then the next thing is plan it out in advance. Look at your calendar on your wall and have what you call your marketing calendar. And think of at least 6 months. I mean, if you can't do the full year, look at the 6 months, because some of this stuff you're going to need to order 2 months in advance to make it happen. And then at home, it looks like Santa's workshop. You're in there tying bows, licking envelopes, until you can hire somebody to do it for you when you've made enough money to do that. Then you have leverage. But right now, you are the leverage. Not right now. Some of you on here I know are already netting $1 million. You want to net $2 million. That's awesome, right? But some of you are netting $1 million and you're working yourself to the bone because you don't have marketing working for you. And that's all this system does, okay? So now once they make it from the 1x12, they raise your hand, you put them on the 8x8. That way you're going to establish a relationship with them. You're going to use letters, cards, phone calls. I'm going to show you exactly what to do. And then ultimate goal of establishing yourself as the #1 agent in their mind. So here's what a standard 8x8 looks like. Okay, so week 1, you drop off or send a handwritten note card. Hey, Susie, it was really nice meeting you at Bob and Larry's this Saturday. That joke you told about the old guy was super funny. Whatever. Love you, Brendan. Right? Don't say love you, but you know, kind regards, Brendan. Okay. Number 2, you're going to call them the second week. Number 3, you can drop off or send an item of value. So we used to until COVID, and I'll tell you what we send now. We would always do the 4 different sports teams. So it'd be the Rockies calendar, the same cheesy stuff. If I ever thought you'd ask me, 15 years ago, would I be sending cheesy Rockies calendars? I'd have laughed in your face. I love me some cheesy Rocky calendars now because people are like, they call me because I walk into their house when I'm doing the listing appointment and my calendar's on their fridge. It works. So when we say item of value, something that they're hopefully not going to throw in the trash, a pen with your logo and your name and your phone number on it, a notepad, right? So it's hopefully something they can utilize, a calendar, not only a sports calendar, just a general calendar, right? Things that aren't going to be thrown in the trash, right? Week 4, call. Week 5, an item of value. Week 6, phone or text. Week 7, drop off an item of value or send. And then number 8, contact the individual by phone. So when you look on here, you're really seeing 4 pieces of mail and 4 personal touches. 4 pieces of mail and 4 personal touches. Now, here's the thing that I always try to drive home. Start small. Do a 2x2. Right? For right now, if you're starting out and you're like, man, 8x8, that sounds like how am I ever going to figure this all out? Right now, start with a 2x2 or a 3x3. So every person that you meet, whether it's at a dinner party, an open house, a happy hour, through circle prospecting, again, once you can door knocking, whatever it is, right? Once you meet them, then this process happens. So you might just do 3 simple things 3 weeks in a row for every person, and that's your thing. Then as you build up, you add on the 4th. As you get more leverage, you add on the 5th. But don't think you have to start today with all 8. It'll be very, very probably frustrating to do that. As I always say, if I wanted to bench press 500 pounds, I wouldn't just go try to throw it up tomorrow to crush my sternum and I'd die. I would start with 100, then 150, then 200. So think about it the same way. Now, with text, obviously, text is a very valuable touch right now. So you can, when you see on here phone, that just means text. You can do video text, which makes a big impression. So, hey, this is Hillary. Hey, I just wanted to follow up with you guys again. I hope everything's going well. Wanted to make sure that you received that Rockies calendar I sent you. Hey, if you need anything, give me a call. Mwah. Right? Don't do the mwah part, but you get the point, right? Because I'm building a connection. I'm building a visual connection, right? That's all I want to do. And I'm standing out from the crowd. Cute, cheesy, quirky, goofy, always wins. People love it. They love it, okay? Overkill over time, okay? So we've got to do year round with our Mets, right? And what I call the Met work, right? They're not your network, they're your Met work. And I know if I want to net 100 grand, I need 48 people in my network. I can probably get to 48 first without 400, but at some point I'm going to need additional people so I can put them into the system, right? So we want to make sure no one else gets their mind share. We want to make sure that we do a successful 33 touch. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second. So 33 touches, right? What should they be? right? What should we look at? Now, I do mine a very certain way. There's no right combination to this. I can only tell you what I've done. And a lot of what I've designed was because I wanted it to be simple and easy. So my 33 touches are 12 direct mail. When I ever use the word direct mail, that means there's a stamp on it, basically. So 12 direct mail mailers a year, 12 email internet market reports, 12 internet touches, 4 phone calls, so 1 phone call every quarter, and 5 personal touches cards. So this would be birthday, anniversary, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving. Yeah, you can separate yourself apart on however you want to do this, right? You could do a lot of, I know people that do New Year's Day cards to separate themselves, or New Year's cards to separate themselves from everybody that sends Christmas cards, right? Whatever it is. If you're really trying to, your target group is the synagogue, right? Target it to that. If your target group is the National Rifle Association, I'm sure there's like National Rifle Day. I don't know, but I'm sure there is. Have a card that has a gun shooting something. Awesome, right? If that's your target group, knock yourself out. Whatever it is, you're just trying to stand out from the crowd, right? So in order to do that, right, we've got to become stalkers, right? Unfortunately, if you didn't know that once you became a real estate agent, you are going to become a certified stalker, well, I'm here to tell you, you are. So your whole thing is to find data on everyone. And there's so many different resources on how to do this. Like I said, one of them is True People Search. The other great system is social media. I mean, if you can't go on Facebook and figure out that this people have kids and what those kids' names are, don't know what you're doing, right? How cool is it that you send or say, even on Messenger, right? You message somebody and just say, hey, happy birthday to little Johnny. Hope you guys have a fun day. Who is that? Oh, that was that real estate gal that keeps sending us all the stuff. Well, that was so nice of her. What are they going to say? What a psycho for wishing my kid a happy birthday? No. Unless you say something weird, maybe, I don't know. But so now on the other side of that, where I see people screw this up and I see them screw it up big, don't go too personal, right? I see people send stuff where, yeah, it's you on a vacation card coming back from Hawaii and you've got the COVID-20, right? And you put on an extra 40 pounds and you're sending people like how much fun you had in Hawaii as a card. I've literally seen things like this and I'm like, huh? So just use common sense, right? Use common sense. Cool. All right. So those are 33 simple touches. Let's talk about some sample ideas for all of you creative people. And I know this is the part that everybody loves, which always cracks me up, right? So if you're looking for ideas, the easiest way to find a mailer idea, and I can tell you right now, go to Google or YouTube and go real estate direct mail ideas. That's all I do is I steal them from every other agent out there. Not even steal, they're telling you about them online, right? So here's some sample ones. So when you look at January, right? So evidence of success, right? Time to start thinking about putting your Valentine's Day reservations in. February, letter from the heart, call your database and just say, hey, I love you being a client, right? I've seen people do the custom little heart things that says, I love you as much as I love referrals, right? There's so many different ways. All of that stuff's online. I heard of a great one today, and I'll give you a kind of a pro tip that I thought was cute. So you take a little plastic bag and you put hay in it, right? From like a hobby store, right? Then you take a plastic needle with a string on it, and you put the string with the little needle with your business card tied to the string into the little bag of hay, fake hay. And the message is looking to stand out, or I know sometimes it can feel like selling your house like you're a needle in a haystack. I'm the difference maker, right? They love the smell of the hay. They pull that out. Stuff like that. That's the quirky stuff. We send ice cream scoops that says, giving you the scoop on the summer real estate market, has our ice cream card. I hate the ice cream scoop more than anything because it's a super pain because I have to personally tie ribbons to the card to it. And it's an absolute nightmare. We still have ice cream scoops sitting in my office to this day because we over ordered, which was also a mistake. So be careful on over ordering, right? So if you need an ice cream scoop, holler at me, I got you. But yeah, these types of things. So we could spend an entire session talking about quirky ideas. Is there one that's better than the next, right? Is there one that's better than another? It's all about creativity. It's all about, hey, there's this one thing that's going to make me $1 million? No. And this is where I see so many agents get caught up in analysis paralysis. You overthink it and you go, if my mailer's not perfect, I'm going to analyze it and it's going to cause me to be paralyzed before I ever do anything. Just start sending stuff. Start with version 1.0, then go to 2.0, 3.0. Every year it'll get better. You're going to have some that just crushed it. You're going to do mailers where you send it out and you know, I'll tell you a true story from me too. Sent out an entire mailer. There wasn't enough postage. So every mailer that went out, they required postage on delivery. Think how stupid I felt. Yeah. Oh yeah. True story. Right. So sellers or my clients are calling me up and they're like, hey, Brendan, whatever you were trying to send me, man, I don't know. I decided not to pay for it. I was like, oh no. Right. That's okay. Keep it moving, laugh it off and be like, what? You didn't pay for it? You know, it's all you can do. We're all human beings. Now, when you're looking at scaling this, what you have to start thinking about is cost per piece. So the golden question that I always get is, does it make sense to send more cheaper or less that's more expensive? The answer is it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? If you're sending out 10,000 pieces and you're able to get those 10,000 pieces down to 20 cents per piece for bulk mailing, and you're on the routes with the post office and all of these things, which again, just go to YouTube and they'll explain every step of how to do all of these, you know, mail systems to make it cheap. Well, does it make sense to have 10,000 in your haven't met database, getting that many cards month after month and hoping that out of the 10,000, several of them raise their hand to convert on a 50-to-1 conversion? Or does it make more sense to spend $33, $1 per piece on people that actually care about you and that somewhat know who you are? Or does it make sense to have a combination of both? See what I'm saying? So the combination of both is obviously that sweet, sweet, sweet spot. But if I'm brand new in the business or I'm new out, I'm going to first build this up. I want to build my Mets first. I'm always going to focus on that first. Now, you could go to, you know, if you want to just start coming in and just spending money, the hard part with the haven't met bucket is it could take 3, 6, 9, 12 months before you even get one person to raise their hand. Where people get frustrated is they go, Brendan, I've been sending mail for 3 months. This is for the birds. I haven't gotten a single phone call. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go buy some Zillow leads. Well, we just saw how that worked out, right? Of course, it's going to take a little bit of time. You're looking to have a real estate career, not a real estate year. And you have to constantly punch yourself in the face with that. I want to have a real estate career and not a real estate year. Internet leads are the quick, easy fix with very little money. This is what you're trying to do to build a legacy, okay? All right. So, Anna, when should I do this, right? I'm super busy. When should I even try to start thinking about on my insane calendar, when am I going to start doing all these freaking mailers?
That's a great question. And I think it really just comes down to making sure that it is time blocked whenever it makes sense, but on a consistent basis. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the exact key rule. So for me, that time was always Thursdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Thursdays from 2 to 4 was my locked in golden time to do all of my mailers, handwritten note cards, all of that. Now, as it started to grow, it was late at night because I was licking envelopes, I was stuffing things, tying ribbons, doing all this stuff. And again, that was the extra work it took at night. But it's gotta be consistent. It has to be consistent and it has to be blocked. It's just like lead generation. If you don't block it and honor it as being more important than your kids' graduation. I'm trying to think of something very important, right? The problem is we put these things on our schedule, and then your buyer goes, you know what, tomorrow from 2 to 4, we want to see houses. And you go, screw my direct mailing, I'm going to show houses. Well, then of course it doesn't get done. And then you're sitting back here 3 months from now going, man, I'm hard up for a sale right now. This sucks. So it has to be consistent over time. You had a question?
It has to be, well, I think I was just going to chime in and say, and I think it has to be fun, right?
Yeah.
So you have to look forward to it. So maybe that looks like getting a couple of bottles of wine and a couple of friends to do it together, put some nice music on, do some handwritten notes, do your pop buys together. And then you look forward to it every month rather than being in Brendan's shoes, being like, I have to tie another ribbon. No one's going to want to do that month over month and be consistent with it.
Yeah, beautifully said. And at our office, we before COVID, and we'll hopefully have it back again here soon, we had what we called sip and send. So everybody would get together, and we knew we all had to do it together, and we would sit there and we'd have music 2 hours. It was a blast, and it was fun. So you got to do that, right? And unfortunately, your kids, your husband, your wife, they're Santa's elves. Put them to work, right? They've got to go to work. They will be licking and stamping and paper cutting their little hearts out. Use your cat and just have them licking stamps. Whatever you've got to do, leverage the manpower to get it done, right? So looking at that. Now, here's the question that I also get that I want to be very clear on. Brendan, how do I keep it all organized? How do I know in my database, whether you're using Boomtown, Command, if you're with Keller Williams, I forgot Remax's CRM's name, but whatever company you're with, but I mean, there's a lot of great CRMs out there. We use Real Geeks for ours. The way that you coordinate this, and I'll give you a very simple system that's non-digital, and then I'll give you the digital system. The very simple system can be as easy as a 3x5 note card, and you've got 12 manila envelopes in a filing folder. So 12 manila envelopes in a filing folder, 13. And then one file folder at the end, which is going to be file number 13. Each file folder represents a month, right? So when you look at that, or you can do an accordion one that has it all broken up. First easy step is if you take those file folders, well, let me back it up because I forgot about the 8x8. When you meet someone, you're going to have the 8 folders, 8x8 week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, so on and so forth. Then 12 months, and then the final folder in your filing cabinet, that's going to be the once a month for life. Okay. So you have the 3x5 card. It's your client's information, all of their stuff, their address, their home address, their kids' names, anything you can find out, and you're constantly updating that 3x5 card. You could use a single page form called a lead form and have a lot more information on it. But I know a guy that used to sell $2 million in GCI from using just 3x5 note cards that he just rotated through, and that was his system, and he crushed it. So you can overcomplicate this or simplify it to your liking. But you meet a new person, you write their information on the 3x5 card, you put them into 8x8 week 1, right? That week you meet 3 or 4 of those people, so you've got 4 cards in there. The next week, you move them to the next folder. The people in week 2 get the week 2 mailer, they move to the next folder, and so on, and they trickle down, right? Till they get to the once a month for life. Cool? So that's the manual way. In your CRM, we use what's called tags. So when I have a new person in, I tag them as 8x8 week 1. The next week, I pull up all my tags, export the mailing list, and print out the labels. Now again, when you're smaller, handwritten's better, but as you start to grow, you're going to have a big database. You're going to have to start using labels. So you're going to export out, use those labels, have your mailers going out. And honestly, it's a factory. You become a small little printing factory. Now you can leverage this out to companies. The companies that I've used in the past, there's a company called My Red Tools. My Red Tools is an amazing company that does all this for you. You can do it piece by piece. I like them a lot. And then client keepers. So we also utilize client keepers, and I can post this stuff later. We'll send it after the fact in the class. But client keepers is another one. And there's probably 50 other companies that do it, to be honest with you. But you just got to get it into a system. There's no magical one. They all have different pluses and minuses. So when you're looking at the schedule, just think about that. When am I going to do this every single week at the same time effectively? Those are the people that have all the success. So TOAST, right? Just a little acronym that, again, you could easily take this slide and we can post it afterwards and print it and put it in front of your workstation, your office. It's very simple. TOAST. Talk to them, offer them something, right? How can I help with the kids? How can I help with the Girl Scouts? How can I help with your charity? How can I help with a free CMA? How can I help with where the mortgage rates are at? Whatever it is, right? So provide them assistance. So whatever it is that they need, right? So you're going to talk to them, present them, offer them assistance, and then send them something, right? So something of value. And then last, text them. Text is the biggest powerful tool right now. We're seeing more return on our text than any other form of communication, period. So how do you upgrade your text campaigns? Well, you've got to incorporate video, right? Video and text is key, right? So then you got to get out of your head, get comfortable with it, and get really comfortable with doing video text. You can use bomb email systems, all this stuff, but video, video, video. All right. In talking about your database, right? We have to constantly feed it, right? That's the thing. So if you're looking at your goal and you go, look, I got to have 48, that's one a week that I need to add in there and make it so I can make $100,000 a year. Now that's if no one else falls out. So if I'm trying to add 48, I probably need to put in about 55 to 60 because there's going to be some drop out there, right? Going to have a 20%-ish percentage of attrition. So if that's the case, then I'm looking at it every week and I'm saying, okay, how many am I adding? Is this number going up, right? So if you're new in the business and you're starting out, if this number is 12, every week is the next week, is it 14? Is it 16? Is it 19? You might get stuck sometimes where it's just, it stays at 20 for a while. Your answer then is, I have to do one of two things. Either spend more money and time marketing to my haven't mets, or pick up the phone and make some cold calls until I can afford to have haven't mets. You gotta feed the system, right? So we always wanna feed it and never put it on a diet, which means we've gotta consistently do it all the time. So let's talk about actions that you can take today, right? So action changes things. So if you're looking at your current system, what I'd love you to do is write down, or even better, put into the chat box, what's one thing that you're going to take from this and implement today? What is one simple task that you're going to implement into your business that you're going to do to improve your net $1 million system? Put that in there or write it down. So excellent. So I wanted to save some time for opening this up to questions. One of the things that I also wanted to talk about is, so we're really excited. We just a couple weeks released our complete listing system. So that listing system is now available. I think Anna's going to share it here in the chat box. My entire system that I've built over the last 20 years is now available for you to experience. So if you want to check that out, go to the link. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's got every single thing we do, every document, every way we do contracts, our secret sauces, all kind of fun stuff in there that you're going to love. So check that out. And then if you're really wanting to take these systems to the next level, we have our Relentless group coaching, which again, you can sign up for. Anna can send out information after this. And again, the group coaching is all about accountability, taking these systems to the next level. And then of course we have our elite one-on-one coaching, which is if you're really looking to truly net $1 million, build an amazing real estate empire, and are ready to rock and roll. So those programs are all available. They're super fun. And then lastly, before I open this up to questions, so if you have any additional questions after this, you go, hey, you know what? Can I get that one slide or this, whatever? We'd love to hear from you. info@brendanbartic.com. We'll hook you up. Find us on Facebook if you're not already on there, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel. So I'm releasing 3 training videos per week that will improve your business. They range from 5 minutes to 20 minutes to an hour and a half long. And they're all about the techniques and strategies, right? Because again, as you imagine on a Zoom, I can't dive into extreme depth on a lot of these topics. But if you're really looking at that, go on there, subscribe, hit the little bell button, and you'll get the new video every time those drop. So again, thank you guys so much. I really am excited for you to be able to help take these things to the next level. I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes here to answer any questions. And I wish you guys great success.
Thanks, everyone. So just a couple of things, Brennan, can you revisit maybe some of your ideas on how to do really affordable mailers for someone that might have a modest budget? How do we stick under that $1?
Yeah, that's a great question. So easy enough, right? So right now, even if you went to Vistaprint, right? Vistaprint's one of the biggest ones that we used for a long time. So Vistaprint, including the mailer, including postage, everything's going to be about 72 cents. That's the first level of less expensive, right? And those are going to be for postcards and all of that. Now, if you're trying to get it down to like 20 cents, then you have to go to the post office, and it's basically called a bulk mailing system. So they have courier routes that the United States Postal Service does. And the hard part with this is you can't nail it down to just a specific neighborhood. It would be the mailing route of that specific posting route. So if you go to the post office, they'll explain to you what the cost is, what the route includes, all of those things. And that's where you can get the cost down a lot less than first class. Now, here's the debate on that, right? Bulk versus nicer and personal. So imagine you're sitting there and you're in your house and you get a nice envelope that's a gold envelope with handwritten address on it versus a 20% or a 20-cent black and white bulk mail mailer. Which one are you going to be more impressed with, and which one are you going to want to open and or list with, right? The answer, of course, is the gold envelope with the handwritten, note on it, and that's going to make you want to open that up more. I've listened to this debate for years. It just comes down to your strategy. If you're just trying to constantly bomb, and your plan is to bomb 8,000, 10,000, 20,000 mailers 2 times a month for 20 years, well, of course, you're going to have some people that respond to you because they're going to be seeing your name that long. If you're new and your budget is a little bit tighter, you only have the option of time and being more personal. So I always laugh about this. We've looked, there's companies that do handwritten note cards for you. So let's say that, like me, you have the handwriting of a 7-year-old, right? There's companies that do handwritten note cards for you. I don't know the name off the top of my head. Just Google, write handwritten note cards for me. It'll come right up. And they're more expensive. They're like $1.40 per piece, right? But they handwrite everything for you. Other option is you can buy a handwriting machine. So for $5,000, there's machines that you type in the computer, you plug your USB into it, and it prints out letters, envelopes, everything, but it's literally handwritten. And I know people that do this because what they utilize and leverage that with is, especially with a just sold or I have a buyer, I get clients all the time that they're like, Brennan, I just got this letter about these people that have a buyer. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they do, right? And we all know, and they're like, well, it's handwritten and everything. I'm like, yep. I was like, let me guess what it says, right? And because the general public doesn't know. Now, are some of them authentic? Sure. Yes, sure they are. But for the most part, people that are doing this at a high level, they're leveraging technology in some form or fashion to get a competitive edge, right? So that's a big one. What else, Anna?
So we've got a good one. Let's see here. I've been in the business for a few years. Would you recommend putting my current sphere on a 12x1 plan and starting the 8x8 with new people?
Excellent question.
Yeah.
No, that's a great question. So yeah, if you're newer, then yes, exactly what you said. You would want them on a 1x12 for now, right? So start generally marketing to them, unless they're those people that you truly feel, again, that are a core advocate, right? All we're talking about is just literally the people that are right in that core that love you And then all we're looking at from the out here, and when I say love you, again, $33 a year on that you think would buy or sell with you or refer you business. So if in your database right now, you're like, look, my mom is definitely going to buy and sell with me, hopefully. So I've got one, right? Then maybe she's your first met for now, but then you're building this. And then you just got your target group out here that you're doing your 1x12 on every single month to answer your question. So the way that I would proof that is those people, when you're starting out, would they currently buy, sell, or refer business to you? Now, if that's the case and you're still kind of nervous, you could still put them on an 8x8. You could put them on the next 8 weeks, you put them on 8 touches just to really be like, here I am. I know you know me, but now you know me as the realtor, and then drop them into your 33 touch, right, for life system. What else?
Our friend Tom has got a good one here. When everyone is cutting expenses, do you recommend this is the time to double down on marketing?
Great question. Yeah. So that depends on 2 pieces here. Number one, how much money you have, right? So if you're looking at the strategy and you're saying, I don't look at it as seasonality, people saying we should cut. Right now, we're not cutting expenses on any format. I mean, we didn't necessarily feel a blip on COVID because these people that are in your true 33, right now, they're either, which I'm experiencing, they just experienced a job transfer or a job loss for a new job. They're experiencing divorce because everybody wants to kill each other, right? So your 33 hates each other right now because, again, I won't wash my damn dishes, right? So now I'm getting divorced, and now all of that, I'm going to be there to lead those things. So I wouldn't necessarily say double down. This is just like the stock market. It works over time. As long as you're consistent with it and you're not doing, again, I'm not going to go in and be like, I'm going to buy, the new tech company for X amount and hope that it all works out. That's not this play. This play is real estate career, not real estate year. What else?
How often do you audit your 33 touch system, your 8x8? Is this something you evaluate on an annual basis? How do you know your ROI?
Yeah, it is monthly. It is monthly. So I look at it monthly, and here's the force factor that I have to do is I have my amazing administrative staff print out the entire list for me, and I have to physically go without knowing any other information, look at the names. And if I don't know every person's name on there and who they are, at least generally, then I know they have to come off, right? If it's like John Swanson and I'm like, Swanson, Sampson, I'm like, if I don't know that name and I'm like, who that person is, I have to hack them because that means they're not worth $33. And it's tough because I'm like, maybe I just put a little bit more in that 33 touch, I'll make some more money, right? Because it sounds cool. And then also you're going to be getting return mail back to you, right? So you're getting return mail. And then the third check down is verifying it against if they still live there. So yeah, it's a great question.
And how about this one? How do you recommend marketing to just Mets if you've only been given one method of contact information, i.e. just an email, just a phone number? I find sometimes people don't want to give you as much information as you'd like, especially in open houses, for instance.
Well said. Yeah, and that's excellent. So first thing, what I talked about earlier is you got to become a stalker, right? So whatever way that you can hopefully find that home address, but it's tough. If their name is John Smith and they're impossible to stalk, then yes, then your touch system is going to rely mostly on texts and phone calls. But literally, that still comes back to what I spend $33 a year on them. You really can't because they're going to be automated. So remember too, with your target group, when you're with your big CRM machine, that's going to be doing the heavy lifting for the target group. So you're going to have text campaigns, email campaigns, what we call workflows, right? And the worst thing about my entire real estate career is building your workflows. No one wants to build a text workflow or an email workflow. I'd rather go to the dentist than have to sit there and build a workflow because you're sitting there trying to plan out a text campaign that's going to go out 40 months in advance and try to make it relevant. And then you're trying to come up with emails, cheesy emails, and then you're trying to classify it versus seller, buyer, center of influence. But the reason why they're so valuable is because you want to automate the people that you can't get the home addresses for, the true Mets. You want to automate everything else behind the scene so you can really focus on doing special stuff for the 33 touch, right? For the people in your true 33. So again, just like the mine would be all the dirt out here. We're going to be trying to make it, fall into our machine. And then once we get the diamond, we really want to polish that diamond, right? We want to polish that gold nugget until it's there. So yeah, that's the hard part, is either stock them, ask them for the information. And this comes from, you have to have a piece of value on why they need to give you their address. So you have to get so excited about whatever you're offering and be like, look, I have the most amazing Rocky's calendar on earth, and I want you to have a copy of it. I'm sending it out to all my homies. I don't want you to miss out on it. Hey, just real quick, what's the best home address for you? They'll give you their address if they think there's something in it for them. So remember, that's always come from that place of value. If they don't think there's anything in it for them, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm not giving you squat because you're terrifying.
Do you leverage just sold or just listed postcards in your 33 touch? Why or why not?
Yeah, so just sold would still go back to the target market. So one of the best things, and I'm glad you brought that up, Anna, and who was that question? You're on mute.
Our friend D.
Oh, D. All right.
Yeah.
So it's a great question. So here's the story that I always explain with just listed, just sold. So one of the ways that I made a lot of money, in fact, I just literally closed on another unit on Friday. I'm not going to tell you the building address so you guys don't try to take over my building. But here in the Front Range, we have an area of town called Cap Hill. And my strategy with high rises, the same way as I would do a residential neighborhood, is I have alerts set up in the MLS for this specific building. I do 5 specific buildings in Cap Hill. And again, I went back to the same thing of looking at the turnover rate. And I knew these buildings had almost 10% turnover rate, especially in Cap Hill, because people are either, they're dying because they're getting older. They're going into nursing homes. They're either super young and they're 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom studios, so they're moving into something bigger. So I really loved those buildings. And so I have an alert set up in my MLS that every time a unit would go active, not my listing, but anywhere, I would do a just listed mailer to that building. And you just have to put a little disclaimer that says, property is not mine. It's currently listed by, Schmorshin Real Estate, whatever. And I would post that postcard, send it to the entire building saying just listed with a picture of the house and my pretty face. Now, I wouldn't even need a picture because I'd use a picture of the building. You don't necessarily have to have a picture of the unit, so you don't have to steal the agent's pictures or whatever it is. But you go there with your camera, tour the building, you can take pictures of the swimming pool, the rooftop deck, and use that. And then you're saying, just listed, unit 1254. Cool. So that all 250 people in the building get that postcard, or 100 people, or 50, or whatever the building size is. As soon as it goes under contract, I get an alert through MLS, I send another postcard, right? Super cheap, very cheap, this postcard I can find, just a little small postcard. Congrats, just went under contract. We're still working with buyers that missed out on this opportunity. If you have a similar unit that you might be interested in selling, give me a call today. Boom. Third is when it sells. Property just sold. Still have a buyers that we're working with that missed out on this opportunity. If you have any interest, please give me a call. So that 3 postcard system, just listed, under contract, sold. If I'm looking at it, I'm spending $1.50 per unit for all 3 of that process times, let's just say 100 units. So let's just make easy numbers, $150 that I'm spending. Then you get the call from the first person that's like, hey, I saw your postcard. Yeah, we saw that other one sell at unit 1204. We actually are kind of interested in selling, so we'd love you to come by. Awesome. Now you go on your first listing appointment. Now you actually get your first one. And now the process is very authentic because now you're doing it as you, right? And as you start doing this unit after unit, the one I just closed on Friday was the 9th unit I've sold in that same building in the last, I think, 4 years, right? That's not bad, right? If I can pop almost 2 units every year from one specific building, and I'm spending somewhere between, I don't know, when I look at the entire process of the turnover in there, $600 a year on that process, $600 for 20 grand for the 2 sales a year. I'll do it. Put me in, coach, right? So that's it. Now, do you have to do all 3? You could just do the just listed and the just sold. You could just do just the just sold in the building. So every time you get an alert in MLS, Now think about this. You don't have to do that for a building. You can do it for a neighborhood. You're just doing the just solds, making people think that you're the aficionado, updating them on the information. The small print, they don't care that it was Susie from XYZ Real Estate that did it. So remember, just listed, just solds are your target group. Then once somebody raises their hand and says, I want a CMA, or hey, I offer an instant cash offer. Are you interested in instant cash offer? Sell it in 60 days program, fix and list, right? We offer a lot of different options to entice people to call us. Hey, I saw that postcard about your sell it in 60 days or you'll buy it program, right? Ding, ding, ding. They raise their hand. They might not still be ready for a year. They go into my 33 touch system until they turn into a dollar sign. And a client for life. I know dollar sign sounds cold, but they turn into a successfully closed relationship that happens to give me dollars.
And what are your opinions? What are your thoughts on targeting rental complexes for new buyers?
Yeah. So as I said at the beginning of this, we saw those numbers, right? 79% of sellers go with only one agent they interview, 53% with buyers. All right, my numbers might be slightly off there. Regardless, I'm never going to spend $1 marketing to buyers in my entire life. Ever, never, ever, 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 ever. Because I don't want buyers. I don't want to work with them at all possible. Listings create leverage. I can't market a buyer. So if I can't market a buyer, why would I spend money marketing to a buyer? If I tag that one, right? I should put that on my tombstone, right? But if I can market, if I'm going to spend marketing dollar, I want to make sure I can get the maximum return for that marketing dollar, which of course is sellers. So yeah, that's me personally, but yes, I would not do that. What else?
Awesome. I think that's the end of our questions. Folks, if you have any other final questions, we'll hang on for a couple more moments, but any other final thoughts, Brendan?
No, all I can say is these were all great questions. I'm really, honored and proud to have you guys, here. And if there's anything else that comes up afterwards, like I said, we're here. I was right where you were one day, and some of you on this call might be doing 10 times more than me, and I hope to get where you're at one day. We're all in this somewhere, but yeah, I'm honored that you've decided to, take an hour and a half to get better, and I appreciate it.